Okay, so right now what I'm doing is I'm going to be adding some orange glow that's going to eventually be, you don't know whether it's behind the walkway or in front of it or a little bit of both. So I'm going to paint this on, and then I'm going to take some off or blend it in like that. Do some more finger painting, right? So I've found that that's the best way to really make a blend on a really flat surface like this sheets of brass and it's a totally different experience painting on sheets of brass because it's so flat, and it seems to make things dry quicker. So it doesn't bounce like if you were to paint on a canvas. So I was looking at this the history of this lighthouse, and the first lighthouse is out of Grand Haven, or in the early 1800s, and they had one closer to the oval at the beach, and eventually that one, the lake took it out, collapsed everything, and then they 1875, something like that, I think they built this pier head. They had a lighthouse out at the end of the pier, and then eventually they moved it back, like in 1905. I think that's what, I could be wrong, but I just found it interesting. They moved the lighthouses back and forth a couple times. Eventually, I think this one ended up here in 1905, and then the structure at the end is a fog, what do they call it, foghorn house. And there's also lodging for the lighthouse attender out there. But the interesting thing that maybe people don't know is this structure right here is where the lighthouse lighthouse tender, he would walk up here on these planks, and they're like wood planks on here and some wires. Walk along there above these crashing waves. Walk down, over, there's a door right here. You walk through the lighthouse, walk out, and then into the fog house. So, if you've ever been to Lake Michigan on a really super stormy day, it's pretty dangerous. So that's why they had to have a way to get out there. You could easily get swept off this pier when you have waves just coming right up over it. The power of Lake Michigan and the Great Lakes is awesome. So, and that's why you would have to have the lighthouses. One is to guide ships in at nighttime and during really bad storms. So Grand Haven is known as the Coast Guard City, USA. They've had Coast Guard there for a long time, and they've really been needed over the years to keep wayfarers or seafarers safe and help them guide them into the safer waters around Grand Haven. I think that's looking pretty good. I like this kind of purple effect, and it looks like waves coming up over this. I'm going to make these back waves a little bit darker. So, it's not typical. Lake Michigan is kind of very clean water, and it has a lot of times has a tendency to have a greenish effect. But when you have a light like this, what they look like, eventually they look like they're brown or orange. So I'm putting those back there, making some darker areas, and that'll help these to stand out a little bit, give it a sense of atmosphere. So sometimes I'll do this without a glove on. If you look closely, there's some places that have my fingerprints right in the paint. So, fun fact. So I think we're doing good on this. This is going good. It's looking good. I'm happy with the way it's going. And also, I think I mentioned in another video that the place where the 3-foot tall piece of brass and this 2-foot tall piece of brass come together, it's nice and tight, so you can hardly see it, but I'll follow along with my brush right there. And that's right about where this pier is. So it really is a happy accident right where that thing landed. It looks like it's part of the painting. You know, instead of trying to cover it up, it looks good. So if you do see this, it actually looks like it's part of the pier. So, all right. So I have that painted in. Now in some places, actually I want the, oops, I don't want that color on there. So once again, finger painting. And I use a lot of paper towel in my paintings. And I try not to use very much odorless solvent because even though it's supposedly odorless, it's still, you know, kind of nasty stuff. So I keep the lid on as much as I can because I'm pretty sensitive to the smell of this stuff. Over all the years seeping into my brain, I've developed a sensitivity to it. So I need to put a little bit more of this orange stuff over the lower area so it'll look like it's, you know, the sea foam or the mist coming up over that. So let me see here. What color did I use? I'm using different colors here. But those, man, those Holbein paints. And what's the other one? I mean, I just use a combination. A lot of my paints are right from Hobby Lobby. You know, they're changing their stuff up, so maybe they're not quite as good a quality anymore. Indian Yellow, Masters Touch. Yeah, they're pretty good. And what's this one? Michael Harding, another excellent paint. But my all-time favorite paints are Holbein, but they're very expensive. I went to the art supply store the other day and they had some nice purple on a discount, and that was $55 a tube. And you know what? I can't do it. Maybe someday I'll be able to afford $55 a tube and fancy paintbrushes, but right now, Gray Matters paintbrushes, man, they're just really good. They take the abuse, and you know, Hobby Lobby stuff usually is halfway decent quality. And then when I sell a painting, then I go on I order from Blick. They have really good range of different qualities of paint. They have Holbein paint there too. So that's what I do. When I sell a painting, I reward myself with some new brushes. So once again, I'm going to add a little bit of this mist over here. This mist. All right up in there. I'm going to go around that wave because that's not quite in the mist. I'm going to go around this splash. All right. Oh yeah, that's looking good. So there's also some splash over here, but this paint is still wet, so I don't want to mess with it too much. But oh yeah, that's looking good. You know, you get to a certain point in the painting and you start to get excited about it because it's going in the right direction. So I think I'm getting there. Things are going good. It's going good. So I think my next step is to start doing some of the boardwalk here. So right along here, there's some reflection going on. I think it's pretty good where it's at, but I'm gonna add a little bit more, little pizzazz to these. This is like the sunlight shining on some of the side planks there. We don't want to make it perfect because, once again, we want this catwalk to look a little janky because, you know, get the effect of, man, what if that guy had a walkout on that thing, and that'd be pretty sketchy. So if I paint it so that it's not real tight lines, I think that will help to get that effect. So once again, these lights are, they go up and a little bit hangs down, right? And then it goes all the way down. Right? These ones here are constructed a little bit differently than these ones. This is up higher in the air. So I like how these are just kind of not real accurate. Right? I'm gonna have to get my liner out that I found. Right? I use a lot of liquid so things dry overnight. And I'm going to, oh no, that's my last paper towel. I don't want to make a run for a paper towel, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Right? Now this one back here is behind the catwalk. So I can make sure that I don't bring it over to the front. All right, this one's behind. Doesn't have to be real accurate. Still. It's looking good, I think. All right, this one's in front, this one's in back. All right. Okay, that's looking pretty good. These supports right here, just look at my photo, there are just a lot of different supports going on in those. I'm just going to kind of firm some of them up, but I don't want to go too much down here. I want that seafoam or mist. I want it to look misty, like the mist is getting thrown up in the air. So, all right. I don't like that. Sometimes I get a little picky in little marks like this. All right, kind of like that. All right, that's looking good. One thing I do want to do is painting with a lot of liquid. I usually don't use very much linseed oil. So I'm going to pull up my chair. So down at the bottom of these, there's arches. You can walk underneath. So we're putting those in. And I'm just making sure you can see them a little bit. And that mist. But they're like double arches. Kind of interesting. Right? I think that's looking pretty good. It's looking good. Gotta put some up in there. I'm gonna load up something. Right there. Okay. So I'm gonna be able to see these guys right here a little bit. Just barely, so you can tell there's something there. But through that mist, you're going to lose sight of them a little bit. Just like that. Make sure they line up. Just like that. Right? Like that. This one goes down here. Oops, I didn't like that. So I'm going to wipe it out. Yeah, that's looking kind of messy, but that's okay. There's a big wave splashing right there. And we want it to look messy. Right? That's looking good. I'm liking the way that's going. Now, I'm going to go back through and tighten those up just a little bit. Oops, didn't mean to do that. So what I'm going to do is put a lot of liquid on there. Thin it out. A lot of liquid. Loaded it up with the, looks like a watercolor brush almost. Just to tighten them up and kind of have that transition into that mist. Give the optical illusion that they're still tight up there. Right there. It's looking good. Gotta keep telling myself, it's looking good, it's looking good. You got this. Right? There are arches going over this way too. All right. These ones, let's see here. The closer they get, the darker they get. So I'm gonna strengthen up some of those. The ones that are on the other side, I'm gonna leave them alone. These ones, let's see how these things are constructed. There's like a thicker part up at the top. Some of these have to look kind of accurate. And it comes up, thicker part on the top. I'll dab on this paint right here. See that? That looks good. That looks good! All right. Oh yeah. This is looking good, people. Right? Right. Looking good. I'm gonna tighten this up a little bit. I'm gonna use my liner. That one. Now would be a good time for a maul stick, but I don't have one of those. I don't think. Oh, I do. Gotta support myself here. This is a poor man's maul stick. Right. Looking good. Looking good. But I'm not real. I'm not real concerned about making these lines super accurate because I think it adds a little bit to the sketchiness of it. So I'm going to load this up. I've got some wires on here. Try to see where I drew them in. So it goes from here to here. And once again, I don't want them real obvious. Or I want them to look kind of sketchy. The name of the game for this catwalk is sketchy. Imagine having to walk out on this thing during a big storm. Well, holding on to these little wires. Okay, came across here. Oh yeah, that's looking good. I'd say it's looking pretty sketchy. Yeah, I'm liking it. All right, now that same line is over on this part. Nope, I got to do it freehand. All right. All right. I think we're doing good. Let's call it good for now on that part.